Okay, on to match 1 of our recent league. We are still on the 2 ground seal build here with 2 decays, and we fixed up our mana base properly. So now we're running with Misties and a Bayou. We keep this hand because it looks like it has the potential to turn into a natural Tendrils kill, assuming there's not too much disruption. And even if we don't, we've got a couple of lands and a probe in case we don't draw a cantrip. So it's not an amazing hand. It's a little bit risky, but it does have the potential for something good to happen. And we're going to play the fetch first, just in case they're on Delver. They're not. We see a pretty strange looking hand. I haven't seen Ninja of the Deep Hours ever. I guess it's possible there. Oh, I have no idea. 4 color, maybe they can play just about anything, I guess. So. Okay, now our opponent has played Deathrite. So what we really want to draw here is I think a ritual. If we can draw any ritual, we can very likely kill them in our turn. Sorry, we have to draw a dark ritual. Or an LED would do it. So that's a bit awkward. We've just drawn another tutor. So this gets a bit tricky from here because we need to draw a brainstorm before we do anything else. Because from here we can do something like therapy for force. If we do that, we're going to have 6 mana up. With 4 after the tutor, which doesn't really leave us enough to do anything. It's one of those handful of times where I think Empty the Warrens would be really handy. It's possible that the correct thing to do here is wait, I think. Unless we could go, if we go Cabal Ritual Therapy, what does that give us? That gives us 3, 4, 3 mana. Okay, so we're in a bit, well, yeah, it's a bit awkward. I think we just have to pass here. The other option that we can consider is if we can shoot it for another LED, whether or not that will give us enough gas. Unfortunately, from here, we're just a little bit choked. The problem is we need to resolve the therapy, and the most mana we can get to is 7, which is a bit problematic. So what we're going to try to do instead, so what we've decided to do is we've tutored for another ritual. Once again, this builds to the natural storm plan. We got 7 cards in hand. We'll have 8 at the beginning of next turn. Now we've got to see if we can try to go. I think we need to wait another turn here, to be honest. I think if we therapy now and then Cabal Ritual and Cabal Ritual. We're still choked on mana. The most we're going to be able to get to Therapy, Cabal Ritual, Lotus Petal, Tutor leaves us still a little bit short. Now, opponent's probably going to force here. So we're going to need to run out the Petal to cast the Ritual. I think after this, if the Ritual resolves, we can Therapy, and we will have Cabal Ritual thresholded guaranteed. The problem being, I still don't think that gives us enough Storm. We need to resolve every single card in our hand right now. Including the Tutor. And the problem with the Cabal Ritual here is that what will happen... Okay, so the Force of Will actually benefits us here. But not enough. So the problem we have is, the one thing that's choking us really badly here is the fact that after we resolve Cabal Ritual, if it resolves, is we still need to cast the Tutor. And if we cast the Tutor, we need to tutor for something in our hand, which has to be LED. And the problem is, once that happens, we're only going to have 3 mana in pool, which is not going to be enough for Tendrils. So it was actually the wrong time to try to pick to go off there. We didn't can our mana enough, well enough. We didn't plan our turn carefully enough. And now we've just burnt a lot of cards. So is our opponent, but we've burnt a lot of cards, including most of our mana, which we need to actually go off here, in a bid to try and push our way through when we were only half ready. So Brainstorm's perfect. And we really need to be fetching and probing here, I think. And possibly trying to go off that way. We have a spare Tutor in the bin. So if we can draw anything that get any mana here, we can go for it. Unfortunately, we're in a bit of a bad spot. They're going to get to eat probably... Guess they'll go for the Infernal Tutor. So we're not too worried about losing the Tutor. We have 3 Rituals in the graveyard, which is fine. Unfortunately, we're going to start losing them shortly. So we need to We really needed to be able to go off this turn. So I think maybe what we should have done is tutored there for Past in Flames and hope that a couple of probes and a brainstorm find us something like an LED or a Dark Ritual. That was realistically our best hope, I think. Unfortunately, we missed the line. Doesn't matter, we only had 2 tutors and they had 2 death rates up anyway, so we're more or less out of this game now. And a Misty Rainforest isn't going to do it, we're just going to have to scoop them up. So we're just going to go with a normal 4-colour plan here, which is 2 copies of Decay, 2 copies of Ground Seal, and an Empty the Warrants. And we'll... Oh. I think we're boarding wrong as well, just to make this really bad. So I guess we've decided we're not 100% sure that it's 4-colour, which is a mistake, I think. We've seen the Fatal Pushes. I guess we didn't see any red. Which means we're not 100% sure. It could be just like a random bug control deck. Okay, great. And we fixed up our sideboarding. I definitely think we want the Ground Seals in this matchup. We're kind of hedging on Ground Seal doing work. Now I've cut a swamp here. I do know more recent lists are playing Wasteland, or some of the more recent lists for 4-colour are playing Wasteland. I've been trialling cutting Petal in place of a land. I'm not sure whether or not that's correct. They only play 2 Wastelands, and I don't think we're super worried by them. I think it's still very reasonable for us to be able to play through. Okay, obviously we're going to take the play here. This is not a great hand. I think it probably should have been mulled. However, we have Past in Flames, we have Rituals. We really don't need to draw much here for this hand to be quite broken. We're going to lead on the Lotus Petal there. The reason we're leading on the Lotus Petal is, well, it doesn't really matter the order. But what it just means is that we've got Abrupt Decay up should something go wrong. Okay, we're seeing red, so... So I think this turn we're going to bet on them not having a Flusterstorm. which I think is probably a reasonably safe bet. They're not going to mull specifically to Flusterstorm. We haven't seen their hand, but from where we are right now, it doesn't take too much to just do it all again. So we'd like to have more than 4 goblins, so maybe it was correct to wait on the pedal there, or to try to Past in Flames. However, the Past in Flames is obviously going to be a lot more susceptible to Force of Will, or Surgical End for that matter. Okay, so opponent's going to fire off the Pyroblast on the Git Probe. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. I also think decaying Deathrite here is quite a good idea. We're just trying to punch through as much damage as possible at the moment. And this brings us down to a 3-turn clock, takes their clock away. Deathrite can just do a lot of work against a non-massive pile of goblins. So they're probably searching quite hard for a sweeper now. I think with Deathrite out of the picture and them on 12, this will lock the game up if they can't find a sweeper. So I guess we're going to assume they're going to be playing out a creature here. I wouldn't expect them to be able to find the sweeper off the first brainstorm. Alright, we're not going to care about Deathrite. They're going to be able to gain 3 life and nail a goblin. I guess that'll bring them down to 4, then up to 6. which means I think we kill them next turn. I'm not very good at combat math, unfortunately, so... Alright, so they're going to take 6 damage. Okay, and Fatal Push. Or Snapcaster. Okay. So this will leave them on 1 with 5 goblins attacking in next turn. And we're still looking in reasonably good shape here, as they're having to eat their own, concentrate on their own graveyard rather than ours at the moment, which means that if we draw the right thing off the top, we can actually just empty the warrens again using our Past in Flames. So I think currently our opponent can negate 1, 2, 3 of our goblins with a combination of Deathrite blocking and eating a Snapcaster Mage, which still leaves us with lethal. So we're going to keep this hand. It's okay. We'd like to have a second land in hand, and maybe fewer Cabal rituals. But we have cantrips, we have interaction, and we have mana, so it's good enough to keep. We definitely don't want to be drawing more mana here. And we're going to brainstorm in response to him fetching. What this means, we're doing this, this probably looks a little bit strange, but the reason we're doing this is so that he can't red blast our brainstorm. We're going to have to redraw one of those cards, and then we're going to brainstorm again next turn. And hopefully draw our black source. I think we should have put the tutor on top there, so we draw the tutor next turn, so that we can actually ponder for a black source. I think obviously we're bottlenecked on black mana. Our brainstorm didn't find us a land, so we're really contingent on finding that black source for us to be able to do anything. We're getting thought seized, which is actually okay. If our opponent's surgical's anything here, so they might take, say, Dark Ritual and Surgical, I think we're okay with that. We will lose a tutor that we've stashed on top, but we will get a shuffle, which gives us better odds of actually drawing what we want. I think the correct take for them here is Ponder. So they take the Ponder here because they can see the same thing that we do. We're stuck on land. If we'd drawn a land, we would have kept it in our hand to protect whatever we put back on top with a Brainstorm. Okay, and this is starting to get really rough. Once again, we need to keep that tutor in hand, so we're making a mistake here. We're hoping to ponder into a fetch land next turn, and then play the land, pass the turn, draw the tutor, and then worry about what we can do. But I think that's incorrect. We need to put the tutor on top, and one of these rituals below the tutor. We don't really care about him at the moment. A hand is largely redundant, and we can afford to lose most things. Unfortunately, we now need to shuffle that. We're bricking really, really badly on our lands here. We've now cantripped 3 times without finding a second mana source. If we can draw a fetch land, we can play something like a Bayou. We could fetch for a Bayou next turn and play out our Ground Seal. It still leaves us with a Deathrite Shaman on the board, but at least lets us, it slows his clock, it protects our graveyard, and it leaves us just in a better place in general. It's possible if we drew a fetch, we might want to Therapy first before playing Ground Seal. Obviously a very difficult ponder for our opponent here. He's managed to wait up a lot of time on his clock, so it's obviously taking a bit of time to work out what the correct decision is here. Okay, and we draw our fetch. So I think with 3 cards in hand, we should be happy enough to just ground seal. While it's possibly has the force of will, I'm a bit more willing to try to jam it when he's down that low. And unfortunately, no go. And I think realistically now we need to draw something like a brainstorm, which needs to find us probably LED Infernal Tutor. And now I think we just have to go for it and hope that Goblins gets us there. So this has been a bit of a rough match for us. I think not so much we could have done earlier in the game. Maybe the sequencing of ground seal versus therapy was incorrect. It definitely would have bought us some time. Unfortunately, we're still drawing like crap, so... It's almost worth playing out the pedal and just killing a death right here to buy time. And so here clearly we've got one more draw exactly to find us some kind of out. And we brick, so